Ladies and gentlemen, what is good? It is Monday night, so you know what that means. This is the Black Baseball Mixtape podcast. We are live. The crew is here. Shout out to All About April, 10th Inning Talk. She's in the building. April, how you feeling?
I'm feeling good. How are y'all tonight?
We are excited to see and hear from you. Know a lot going on and a
Yeah,
podcast coming with your dad. We'll talk about that in a little bit.
yeah.
Um, Also joining us, you got to stay moisturized in this 2025. Who knows what's going to be happening tomorrow? Look, we just don't know. Butterman Kane, Malik, how we feeling, my guy?
Oh, we feeling good. I feel like baseball is starting to even out. There was a lot of hot starts, a lot of
Yeah.
cold starts, and now we're starting to see who's really ready to, take off this season. So I'm excited to talk a little bit about our first month, first couple weeks of the season. It's really getting
And
hot.
we are going to talk about it because there's a lot to talk about. You're right. There was some kind of trickery, if you will, trickery in the
Mhm.
standings has happened over the first month. You're starting to see some of the things that we predicted before the
Mhm.
season start to even out a little bit. Um, some of the teams that started off hot aren't as hot now. And some of the teams that started
Mhm.
off bad aren't as bad now. I'm looking at you, Braves fans. So I'm excited. I'm excited to get started and talk a little bit about this season. Before we do, as always, the Black Baseball Mixtape is brought to you in partnership with Stilo Sports, the Players Alliance, Numbers Game Scorecards, Rebellion Harvest Sunflower Seeds, Minority Prospects, Red, Black, and Green Baseball. If you want to partner with the Black Baseball Mixtape, contact me. The email address is blackbaseballmixtape@gmail.com. A lot of exciting things happening on the Instagram platform, on the website. New comic strip is out, little Black Kids Play Baseball. So there's a lot of things going on. We will start with our big story of the day. The big story of the day is an immediate story. It's an immediate story because it just happened the other day. I talked about it a little bit this morning on our daily Black Baseball recap, but I have to start with my O's.
Yep, we gotta
Child,
I
start
have
with them.
to start
got
with
Go
my
to.
ahead.
Orioles. Now, let me be clear. Let me be clear. At 9-12, and the way that the Orioles have been playing throughout the early part of the season, the only thing I can say is that they're underwhelming. They are. I think their pitching obviously is pretty poor.
Atrocious.
They
Mhm.
haven't really held up. Cedric Mullins is the only bright spot on the team, and he's in a contract year, so there's a lot going on around Ced. And yesterday, the Orioles lost a game to the Reds by 22 runs. It was 24-2. I don't know what you they didn't play today. So I don't know how you come back from such a devastating loss at home against a team. Let's be clear now. The Reds are we all know that the Reds have a lot of talent, but the
Mhm.
Reds are 11-12. They are not like a juggernaut of a baseball team destroying everything. So the fact that I'm taking this personal. The fact that the Orioles lost 24-2, what does
Mhm.
that say about a club at this stage in the season? And what does it say that the Orioles, I think, are just frankly underperforming? April, I'll start with you because when you see the score 24-2, like what happens? What comes to mind here?
The first thing that came to my mind is this is a football score,
Yep.
but this is a baseball game. So, I I literally was so lost as to how something like this can happen. And then, of course, you open the internet and you see people talking about should they fire the manager. But I also want to go back to the fact that there were moves that could have been made this off season that weren't done, and you've now put your team in a position where you're relying on certain players to be able to carry the load, and you're not in negotiation with Cedric Mullins. at the same time. And I'm just like, what are you doing to really improve your team? So I was a little bothered, but I feel like a lot of this is self-inflicted, not from a player perspective, but more so from a management perspective. And I listened to Anthony Santander say what the Blue Jays offered him and what the Orioles offered
Wasn't
him
even close.
weren't even close.
Yeah.
So yeah, that has to be taken into consideration when you look at those scores.
Malik, what do you think when you see? Now and again, this is baseball. These things happen. I will say, Braden Hyde, I think, is a tremendous manager. So I don't think in any way, shape, or form are we looking at Brandon Hyde
Right.
in regards
Right.
to being replaced, stepping down, and so
I
forth.
agree.
But April brings up a point because Charlie Morton did start that game, and Charlie Morton was pretty much one of the only offseason acquisitions that the Orioles made, and it has not worked out well. Father Time seems to have caught up with Charlie Morton, and I don't know what you do, Malik, when you really haven't made any moves. And now the young guys that we were really relying on in Birdland look really young.
Mhm.
I think that the Orioles are in a very peculiar situation. You have a situation where
Are you okay?
I think he froze.
Yeah. Malik, you okay?
Oh no, he was right. He was about to get to his groove.
Right.
He was
While
about
he
to get to his
comes
groove.
back, I do want to say the Dodgers also just lost 16-0. So these things happen to the best of teams, and some people just have a bad day too. So that's something that has to be taken into consideration as well.
Yes,
But
and that's why I'm giving a little bit of grace. Again, you got to give grace to the manager in that situation.
there you go.
Let me just see really quick in regards to Malik. Let's see if we can get him back on track. But no, you have to give grace to the manager because I do think
Right.
Brandon Hyde's a good manager, right?
Right. I
My
agree.
my issue is more of what you said. I think the Orioles looked at the landscape and for whatever reason, they decided that Burns was gone. Fine. I understand
Mhm.
Burns is gone. But my argument was go out and try to get a Jack Flaherty back. Go out and try to
Right.
get an arm that we really think can help the team in the playoffs push to the next level. They went out and got Charlie Morton. They went out and got my man from Japan, the older gentleman,
Mhm.
because he was the older, not talked about gentleman, Suganu. So
Okay.
they went out and got Suganu from Japan. They went out and got Charlie Morton, and neither one of them have, I don't think, have proven that they've been tremendous assets to the rotation. Zach Eflin gets hurt. Grayson Rodriguez hasn't come back. So the Orioles are dealing with a pitching problem, but
And
they're also
also,
he's back. He's back.
no,
But he's
yeah, I don't
also
know what happened in Houston land.
it's
you're
all
good.
good. It's all good. But he's also
Yeah,
dealing with younger guys that, let's just be frank, the entire team outside of Cedric Mullins, Gunnar Henderson did start the season on the IL. Now he's back with a big club. He seems to be getting back in groove, so I'm not too mad at Gunnar right now. But everyone else seems to be kind of struggling to turn it on at the plate. And I do think that this is going to be, you pair this with the fact that the Yankees seem to be still very good. They lost Soto, but they still got a lot of
Right.
players in that seem to be contributing. They're winning games. Trent Grisham, who just went on paternity leave, is absolutely red hot. The Red Sox have gotten better. Garrett Crochet is all of the ace that he was supposed to be,
yeah.
and the Red Sox are playing much
Blue,
better baseball than they played last year. The
Blue Jays.
Blue Jays are healthy, and they're playing a lot better
Yeah.
baseball. Obviously, we talk a lot on this program about George Springer, but the Blue Jays are getting good pitching performances. Vladdy is actually starting now to turn the corner a little bit. He started slow, but Springer's been red hot. Anthony Santander is playing a
Mhm.
lot better now. So you're looking at an AL East that has the Yankees playing well, the Blue Jays playing well, the Red Sox are at 13 and 11, and then you have the Orioles at 9 and 12, still hanging around. But I'm not feeling good. Malik, before you dropped off, I was talking about not feeling good about Charlie Morton, not feeling good about Saganu, not feeling good about the one. They didn't make a lot of moves in the offseason, and now the moves that they did make, Saganu and Morton, these guys don't seem to be panning out, especially on the mound. So I think the Orioles have a real problem right now.
Yeah, and I think there's a divide. You have an emerging core, and Cedric Mullins. We had Mount Castle. Even Ryan O'Hearn is a player that I would consider part of this core hitting team. But I think that there's a issue between which prospects they want to kind of hang on to, like the Adley Rutschmans, who I see as a cornerstone of this team, or the Jackson Holidays and the Gunnar Hendersons, who's going to reach arbitration, which I believe is just that's basically out the door. When you reach arbitration at that level, you're basically out the door unless you sign a monster extension like Bobby Witt did. So I think they're going to have to figure out which players they need to keep. And like you all were saying about the pitching, that's catching up to them. And the dimensions of the stadium are not as wide as they used to be. So some of those wall ball doubles and triples are actually home runs now. So they're gonna have to pick up the pitching. And I don't know how they're gonna do that. Whether it's trade, that's looking like that's going to be the solution, because their prospect system is not looking that great in that department.
Good.
So we also have to remember that Corbin Burns was an option for them to keep, and they didn't.
Yeah, you know what? I'm not as upset with the Orioles organization, the Orioles brass, for letting Burns, who definitely wanted. He was very clear. He has a house in Arizona. He wanted to be back in Arizona.
True.
So, going into that, you not only would you have had to overpay for Burns, you would have had to overpay extensively for Burns. Okay. I feel a little bit differently about Anthony, because I actually feel like he was much more of a I don't know if he's a complete homegrown product, but he was a much closer, had much more ties to Baltimore and he was a great player. I mean, he's a 30 home run hitter, and he was a great player for Baltimore. The fact that they were uncompetitive for him and kind of let him go to the market and let the Blue Jays get him with not very much of a fight, I think was a little bit more cockiness. They were just, I think they were cocky, and they looked and said, we have Jerkstad, we have Kowser, we have all of these guys that are super young, and we're gonna go with our guys that are in the farm system, and they're gonna step up. And the problem has been, I mean, again, not to belabor the point, but Jackson Holiday, Jordan Westberg, Kowser, Jerkstad, I mean, he's doing okay, but it's like he hasn't gotten that many reps. If you're looking at it, they banked on Tyler O'Neill, and Tyler O'Neill is a good player. I do think Tyler O'Neill is going to be a decent player by the end of the day. I don't know if he's going to be as good as Anthony was, but he's going to be a good player.
Right.
But yeah, I think they got a little bit cocky and said, Burns, Anthony, go test the market, go get paid. We're going to be fine.
Right.
And they may have been fine if Eflin was in the lineup and Grayson Rodriguez was in the lineup, and some of these pitchers that we were hoping for, Cal Bradish and Dean Kramer and Sagan, like, you know, when you start putting the names together, you're like, okay, I see why we're going to be okay. But they all have to perform, and they all have to perform at a high level. And obviously, this is Major League Baseball. They are not doing that, and the Orioles are struggling right now to a point where it's not, again, the AL East is beating. We talked about this last week. The AL East is a very good division.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they're teams of good. They're a division made up of good teams. They have been playing each other quite a bit. So now, if they can kind of branch out, play some other teams, beat up on them, because they're beating up on each other. And as much as I'm disappointed in the start with the Orioles, they're only 4 games back right now still.
Right.
So the Yankees are there, the Blue Jays are there, the Red Sox are there. Sitting at 4 games back is the Orioles at, I want to say, 9-12. So they have a shot to still be competitive. While we do that, let's jump over, because you mentioned it as well, and we talked about this last week. Let's jump over April and Malik and talk a little bit about the NL West, who last week I was arguing could be and still could make the argument that the NL West is the best division in baseball right now. The Padres have been red hot. They've been red hot, and they're sitting at 16-6. The Los Angeles Dodgers Dodgers had a hot start. They're 16-7. San Francisco Giants, who are obviously overachieving for everything we thought of, is at 14-8. Arizona Diamondbacks are at 13-9. So don't go out of the window thinking the Diamondbacks, who a lot of us picked to be either in the playoffs or at the top of the division, maybe not the top because the Dodgers are there, but the Diamondbacks are definitely looking like a playoff type caliber team. So Malik, I'll ask you, when you look at Padres, Dodgers, Giants, Diamondbacks, do we think the West is the best division?
The West is the best right now. I have to say this is some of the most entertaining baseball I've seen since that time when the NL Central was this interesting, when the Cubs and the Cardinals and the Pirates are actually vying for a spot. This division has a team like the Dodgers, who we all expect to be great. The Padres, I think we expected them to be good because they've actually meshed well together. People kind of discount the fact that these guys have been playing for a long time as a team, which creates a good team.
And Tatis has been playing out of his mind.
Oh my God.
He's been playing we know he's good, but this makes that whole Juan Soto offseason podcast saying Tatis is the best player he's seen in the game right now. It makes it pretty valid. Like, he looks like the best player in baseball.
Right. Like, to your point on that, Cheats, I saw this stat going into the San Diego-Houston series that Tatis had a higher B WAR than the entire Astros roster up until this point. So he basically carried the last game of the series. And then you have the Giants. They're balling out of control. Jung-Hoo Lee has been, a godsend. And I think the Diamondbacks, they're not going to disappear. You got Pavin Smith and Josh Naylor, two first basemen that are both mashing. That's actually a good problem to have. So right now they're playing the best right now, pitching the best, hitting the best. And when I'm watching live games, I want to tune into the West first.
April, what makes you, obviously your Dodgers are there. They're sitting at 16-7. They started off looking like they weren't going to lose a game. They've come back down to reality a little bit, but you did get a quality start last week from Roki Sasaki.
We did. We've actually gotten a couple of quality starts from Sasaki. I kind of figured after the first game that they would switch him with Barnes, and Barnes, the catcher, is what I'm talking about. And they did. Barnes tends to frame the pitches a certain way for some of the younger pitchers, but the Dodgers bats have been just stale. They've gone cold. So you're getting great pitching, but you're not getting the batting support that we typically would get. So and this is typical of the Dodgers. Like, I watch them a lot. They go into these cold spells. So hopefully that reinvigorates. But we're actually going to talk about this on my podcast episode Wednesday. My dad goes into this particular thing where he talks about the Padres and what that actually means, where people thought because they lost certain players that they're not going to do well. But like Malik pointed out, and like you pointed out, they've been playing together for a while. So there's a chemistry that has already been set, along with something that I feel that Mike Schilt, he nurtures very well for them. So I see that the Giants are about to play the Brewers. They're looking like a decent team, but the hater in me will never like the Giants. So I'm always going to root for them to not do their best. But as far as the NL West being the best division, subtract the Rockies and you're just going to have a dogfight.
Hey. Now, I'm going to have to show the Rockies.
Listen, they've won 3 games.
The Rockies are really making a fight for they're the worst team in baseball this year.
Right.
They are making a fight to be historically bad early on.
Right.
But they play some entertaining ball in a way. Mickey Moniak is actually turning a corner.
He is.
Over
they
there,
called up Zach Veen the other day. They called up what's his name? Adadel.
Adamor?
Amador? He's up in the big now too. So they're letting the young kids play.
So we're gonna see.
Yeah, but I'm with Malik.
Yeah, let them run out there.
I'm with Malik, where if my TV is gonna go on, I do have some teams that I'm gonna watch, but I'm always gonna turn on to the AL West. I'm sorry, the NL West, and then I'm gonna turn into the Black Angels and the Black Nets. That's just, there's a hierarchy, and they're at the top of the hierarchy.
Well, let me tell you one of the guys I'm going to turn on always, because we talked about Tatis possibly being, one of the best players and one of the best athletes. I will add, Tatis has 8 home runs, which is up there at the top, but he also has 7 stolen bases. Like, he's doing it all. But one of the I just got to talk about Aaron Judge. Aaron Judge has been unbelievable this season. And so there was some talk, and I want to get into this a little bit longer, because everybody was kind of asking this week, "Hey man, what's exactly wrong with Soto?" And Soto came out publicly and said, "It's a lot different, not having Aaron Judge to kind of protect you or be in the same lineup as Aaron Judge. And it's harder. It's harder for him to be a hitter for the Mets, because I guess everybody, I mean, again, don't get me wrong, Pete Alonso is raking.
Right.
Pete Alonso is raking.
Yeah,
but the
yeah.
way that Soto explained it, it wasn't a knock to anybody else. It was more of a compliment to Judge, where, hey, look, I got better pitches because Aaron Judge was coming up either behind me or in front of me, mostly behind him. I think in the playoffs, they definitely settled at Soto at 2 and Aaron at 3.
Right.
But Aaron Judge is absolutely just raking. He's leading all of Major League Baseball in batting average at 390. He's leading all of Major League Baseball in RBIs at 25. He's leading all of Major League Baseball in hits. He's got 7 home runs. I am amazed that no matter kind of at this time and age how good he's been over the last 3 or 4 years, he still constantly has the ability to be the best, the best hitter in the game. Like Shohei, him A1, 1A, whatever you want to call it. Malik, are we surprised at all that Aaron Judge is just this dominant?
I'm still surprised. As much as Aaron Judge has done for us, as much as he's, quieted the haters, I am still surprised at this historic start. He's 100 percentile in pretty much every category in his batting profile. He really should be slugging a lot more than he is, but some balls got to get caught. Aaron Judge is having a hot start, a hotter start that I would say he had even last year when he won an MVP and had a 700 slugging percentage to end the year. So the thing that also surprises me is that his age is not really informing his performance.
That's a good point, because you would think he would slow down at some point, and not only his age, but the number of games he's played over the last 2-3 years. You're looking at a lot of his Yankee brethren, and they go down with injuries. They're not like Aaron Judge is not only really good for a really long time, he's also a bit of an Iron Man there, April.
I agree.
Yeah.
And as Malik stated, I'm not surprised because he's my pick for AL MVP. But what I am surprised about is that he started so early, because typically for the past couple of years, he's had slower starts. Yeah. And a lot of people think that, maybe it's the weather, because you kind of see it decline whenever the weather hits as well. But no, he came in with a mission that this was going to be a season where he reminded people, I'm still him at all parts of the game. And I'm going to be honest, I just don't even see anybody playing at that level offensively and defensively. He really is all rise for real. When he on that field, you just need to be glued in, because you don't know what he's going to do on the offensive side or the defensive side. So I'm really excited.
All right, well, let's ask the question then. The question has been laid out. I will ask you both. You can answer. You're starting a team right now. Who do you take, Aaron Judge or Tatis? April?
Oh, shoot. Dang.
Who you got? Let us know in the comments, Aaron Judge or Fernando Tatis right now.
If we're saying right now, this second, I'm going to go with Aaron Judge. I'm going to go with Aaron Judge. I feel like he's proven that over the past few seasons consistently. And I believe that from not just a player perspective, offensively, defensively, also a leadership perspective, I just get I want that person to be who my team is centered around.
The captain. You want the
Yes.
captain. You want the
I want
captain
everybody
leader.
to ride for him. That's what I want.
Malik, you got one. Your GM Malik. You can only pick one. Do you take Judge or Tatis right now?
Okay, I'm taking Tatis. And the reason why I'm taking Tatis, not to slide on Aaron Judge, and I'm not going to go on a record and say that Tatis is a better player than Aaron Judge right now in current state. That is my stance. However, I have to take Fernando Tatis. He is a middle infielder. I still believe that he's a middle infielder, even though he is a platinum glove winning. He played it up through the minor leagues, but I'm saying his athleticism, to me, being an up the middle player for long-term positional value for my organization, I want to be able to make sure that we have a player that can be able to move around the field and slug and run for a very long time. He's 26. I'm going to go with a smart move and get Tatis. I'm going to really miss Aaron Judge because I know he can, transform my entire franchise, but I got to get with Tatis on this one. I still respect his bat.
So we've got one for Judge, one for Tatis. The tiebreaker. Ooh.
You better be picking Captain America.
I'm picking Judge.
I'm
picking Judge.
America.
Got to. All rise for the Judge.
I'm picking Judge right now. I'm picking Judge right now. As you said, he hasn't showed any signs this season of slowing down. And I know what he's done the last couple of seasons. And I know, again, it's one thing for us to talk about potential. And obviously Tatis is it's beyond potential. We know that he's got talent out there, like top level talent.
Right.
But he hasn't done what Judge has done.
Yeah.
So Judge has done it. And when the cameras are on and all the lights are on him, it's still Aaron Judge at the plate. I'm gonna take Aaron Judge in this scenario. Now and again, if you ask me the exact same question and on April 21st, 2026, it may be Tatis because we will have a year of work where if Tatis continues this season up, it's going to look closer to that Acuna number when Acuna was hitting like 40 and 70 or whatever Acuna did, right?
Right.
But right now I go with Judge over Tatis. Next topic to talk about, because again, there was a lot of talk this week when we were talking about one of the things I give us credit for on the Black Baseball Mixtape platform in general and all the stuff that we discuss. But there has been some talk this week about people now coming around to where we probably were of talking about Hunter Green and the way we've been talking about Hunter Green since the beginning of the season. Hunter Green has done amazing work early part of this season. The O's did get to him. His last start with the O's was his shortest start. He gave up his most hits, I believe, and his most earned runs. Prior to that start, all he did was go, I want to say 8 and 1 out, like nearly a complete game. Followed that up with 7 innings and 8 strikeouts. Hunter Green has been going deep into games. He's been striking a ton of people out. He actually, I think he's 2-2, so he's been getting some wins. It looks like he's starting to put it all together. And I think we've talked about this enough on the platform, but what I really wanted to bring it up was because now other people are writing the story. Do you want Hunter Green or do you want Paul Skeens long-term in your future? I think people forget Malik. I think people forget how young Hunter Green is. They've seen him. They've seen him so much, and he was an opening day starter last year. I think people think that Hunter Green is older than he is.
They do. They think he is, and it's also not. I'm really due to him and his maturity all throughout, even his draft year when he was a draft player, a prep player. There was a lot of publications about how the poise of him, his mentality. He was beyond his years as a black role model as well. So I think that Hunter Green had the makeup already there before he was even on the Reds roster. And now we're actually seeing all of that come together. He's got the contract, so he feels a lot more secure in himself, which was, I think, something that was good for him and his family and his own confidence. And also just examining all of his pitches, like you mentioned, he did get hit around, and that's because his fastball while it is very hard and he throws it very well, it can just kind of be like an arrow sometimes in certain situations where it won't move as much in certain games. But most of the time he's able to lock in. And I think Hunter Green right now is showing that he can be an ace on any team, given that he's pitching at the ballpark that is really unforgiving to starting pitchers. So he's really locking it in, and we're really getting to see the fruits of his labor since he was a draftee and before then.
Yeah, really quickly, Hunter Green's got 30 innings under his belt right now, 35 strikeouts, an earned run average of 2.35. And again, 2 wins, 2 losses, and 5 starts. Those starts, though, he's going deep. He's going deep into games. He's getting outs. His K through 9 is 10.3. He really is doing an amazing job this season, and he's 25 years old. And I think people think because he's been around, they don't think he's 25 years old. Paul Skeens is 22 years old. Paul Skeens is indeed, finished the season last season by no stretch of imagination. Is that dude all-star starter, right? Appointment watching TV. What do you think when you look at like a Paul Skeens, Hunter Green conversation, April?
I think you also have to take into consideration Paul Skeens' background. So for a lot of people, they know Paul Skeens from the collegiate perspective as well as the professional perspective.
Sure.
So a lot of people already see him as a champion, as a winner, because he's already won on the big stage. So when they're supporting him, a lot of the support is coming from, oh, I've already seen him win. I've already seen him play against the big team. So they're comfortable choosing him as that guy, especially with him coming in with the Pirates team and dominating the way that he did. So for Hunter Green, he doesn't have that same background. So it's not that I don't think that people are hesitant to support him. He just hasn't had the same support on a national scale as far as the name and the championship for people to truly know and understand who he is. And that's why it's important for us to give him that platform. I love the fact that we can sit back and say, we've been saying this. We've been saying
it this season. And let's be clear, there's a couple other factors to mention as well. But before I do that, Paul Skeens, 2 wins, 2 losses, same as Green. He's at 31.1 innings under his belt. I think Green was at 35, 30 strikeouts. It was around the 30 numbers the same. I think Green has 5 more strikeouts than Skeens. So I mean they're pretty good. Hunter Green has a slightly lower ERA. Skeens' ERA is 2.87. So this season, season they're very comparable. I mean, they're really, really neck and neck if you're looking at it. You mentioned it, April, and I'll bring it up too. Paul Skeens is also, like I said, LSU on that big team with him and Dylan Cruz, College World Series, all that stuff. The fact that Paul Skeens is also dating one of the most popular social media, like athletes, collegiate athletes, social media. Like my wife may not know. My wife may not be able to point out Paul Skeens and a Target, but Livy Dunn and those people, like people know who Livy Dunn is. Like they know that Paul Skeens and that's like this LSU power couple, right? Or things of that nature. All of that stuff,
right?
Like it or not, in 2025, all of that stuff helps to raise their profile. So, and it was like, even remember when they were kind of going back and forth about the autograph, the baseball card. Remember they had got somebody had pulled the Paul Skeens debut patch baseball card. In the Pirates package to get the card was like watching a game with Livy Dunn in the box. Or, you know what I mean? So it's like all of this is part of things that raises Paul Skeens' profile. To Paul Skeens' credit, Paul Skeens doesn't seem to like think about any of this stuff. He just seems to really think about baseball and pitching and kind of being the dude that he is. So salute to him, but he's got a lot of hoopla around him that may not necessarily even be him doing it, right? So really interesting conversation. I'm really glad to I think it's a win for Hunter even to be in these conversations, right? He's pitching well enough to be in these conversations where not only are you asking, is he one of the best pitchers in baseball? I think we all agree this season so far, he definitely has been. Is he the best pitcher in the National League? And then you're talking about, and then naturally that conversation with Skeens is going to come up because there are 2 young guys that seem to throw the ball really hard, and they seem to be kind of carrying teams in the middle of the NL Central there. And let's put this in perspective. I know we're all looking at it, but put it in perspective. The Cincinnati Reds are 11-12, and the Pittsburgh Pirates are 8-15. So both of them have some look. They need more things than just Skeens and Green to get where the Cubs and some of these other teams are going to be. But I'm glad that they're having the conversation. I'm glad they're having the conversation, and it's something that we talk about here on this platform. And we're going to transition a little bit because let's talk about another black pitcher. We talked about Hunter Green. The other side of that perspective is at this point, yes, at this point, high potential, but has struggled the last couple of years. We just got word that Tristan McKenzie is going to be sent down to AAA. Malik, I know you've been watching this closely a little bit and trying to figure out kind of what's been going on with Tristan and where he can be. Obviously, a blow that he's not going to stay in the bullpen right now and he's going to go down. Do you think this is good for him or bad for him? I know he's got to work some things out.
Actually, I think this is the worst outcome. And it's not that they're sending them to AAA. I think that he's actually been DFA'd. It's pretty much a roster. Yeah, it's like a roster cut. And so that means either he could go, which is pretty much, I think, worse because now he's kind of in this limbo where teams could either pick him up, which would probably be from him the best case scenario for him to find another win on a major league team. Or if he decides to do like Zach Plesac and go down to AAA, which he did. I don't think any team picked him up.
That's a good clarification. Before we go any further, let's clarify that. He did get DFA'd, which means he has a number of days to clear. And if no team picks him up, then he can accept an assignment to where an affiliate of Cleveland or so forth. Or does he have the option then to refuse a minor league assignment and just kind of be out there or no?
I think this may be his first year of ARB eligibility, so I think I need to clarify.
Okay, we'll clarify, but you are right. He's kind of the odd man out right now.
Yeah, and that's really kind of a sad thing. He was a highly touted prospect out of that system, that really highly touted pitching system that Cleveland has developed. They undeniably have created some good pitching over the last several seasons. Tristan McKenzie, his numbers in the last few seasons have been informed by injury. He's had some elbow issues. Some have been pointing out to his physicality, and even some. There's been some setbacks in some of his rehabs. Right now, he was starting the season in the bullpen, and the outcomes weren't that great. I'm looking at a lot of the data, and one of the good things that I can see is that he had a good extension, meaning that when he's pitching, he's able to kind of get a lot of playing on the ball. And so I think that that's one thing a team could work with. A lot of the exit velocities and everything were not looking that great. And so I think he really might need another environment to pitch in. This is a first round pick, a CBA pick. And so I think he can bounce back. And there's a lot of teams out there that could, use another arm. And I think that the Guardians right now, they're always kind of strapped for cash. They get kind of impatient when players are starting to get close to those ARB years. And that team has a pretty deep bullpen. So he was the odd man out. And unfortunately, it ended up being him.
I will credit MLB Trade Rumors for this, but they did already put that McKenzie is what's called out of a minor league option. So the Guardians cannot send him to AAA. Right. McKenzie was one of a handful of notable out of option players that they highlighted earlier this year. So this DFA he is done in Cleveland. It's going to be a new situation for him under any circumstances. April, when you see something like this, because again, Malik has already highlighted his career right now has been informed by injury. Lengthy stints on the IL prior to a UCL, and then lengthy stints on the IL after. Never really regained his footing. And let's just be honest, Tristan. How old is Tristan? He's a young guy.
Yeah,
he's 27.
So 27 years old, and now it's like basically has to restart. Which again, you and I know restarting is not 27. Restarting is not necessarily the end, but I'm sure he's got to do some things not only on the field, but he's probably got to do some things mentally off the field to get him in a
Right.
place where he can be successful.
I'm not gonna lie, when I was reading up on the injuries, I was concerned that maybe they didn't take the proper care for him, because when players tend to have that particular nagging issue, for me, that more than likely is going to require surgery and some extensive rehab. So I'm not saying I don't want to seem like I'm just blaming it on the injury, but it seems like it's something that's been nagging and it hasn't been properly corrected. And in those instances, that can create a level of insecurity whenever you're ready to go on the mound to be able to pitch. So I hope that there is a team out there who still sees his potential and they know exactly how to be able to use him appropriately. Because, like Malik said, at this point in the game, there is not a team. All 30 teams need a pitcher. You always need a pitcher.
Yeah.
So, but it's how you can use him effectively, but also train and uplift him in the appropriate way so that he can gain the arm strength, but also gain the confidence to go on the mound.
Well, we are at the mixtape. We are wishing Tristan McKenzie the absolute best. I've met
Yes.
Tristan in the Bahamas a couple times. Fantastic person. So I just hope that he can get it back. And I do think that obviously there's things that are physical that he has to get back, but I also think that just confidence wise and being able to have confidence in his stuff and really kind of he may have to figure out a way to be a new, a new type of pitcher if he's not going to stay healthy. You know what I mean? Like what you were doing at 22, 23 years old may not work at 27, 28, 29 if you've had arm issues. You know what I mean?
Right.
But hopefully he can still figure it out. And, we're wishing him the very best. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Black Baseball Mixtape podcast. We got to thank our partners once again, Steelers Sports, the Players Alliance, Rebellion Harvest Sunflower Seeds, Numbers Game Scorecards, Minority Prospects, Red, Black, and Green Baseball. Talked about a few things. There's a lot of things we got to talk about as we continue on, but I do want to give an opportunity to both you and Malik, and you, April, to quickly, what's top of mind for you right now? What's the biggest stories for you guys in baseball that you're tracking that you are interested in? If we haven't touched them already, I want to give you an opportunity to talk about some of the things that you're tracking, and then we'll finish up the program.
I guess real quickly, and I know this is going to probably be a non-story, but I wanted to touch base on the Braves. They're struggling right now. There was a recent article that Ken Rosenthal actually posted on The Athletic, and there was another article as well from the Atlanta beat writers, I believe. They posted an article about Jared Kelenich's lack of hustle in a particular play where he thought he hit a home run and it ended up being a long single. And Brian Snitker, the manager of the Braves, in the past, he would bench players like Indian Ciarte, Ronald Acuna a couple of times, Marcelo Zuna for various reasons. And in this particular case, he decided not to bench Jared Kelenic. And now Kelenic, we know that he is a player that's been given a chance with the Atlantic Braves due to the Ronald Acuna injury and from last year when he was traded to the team to be their left fielder. And it's a very interesting case because a lot of people are questioning what's going on in the Braves, clubhouse. Why is there in this particular case, Jared Kelenic, who's a player that has had a lot of prospect lore over the last few years, probably one of prospect fatigue at this point, and now he's kind of, I guess, the perception is showing that he has been given partial treatment, or they're not treating him the same as Ronald Acuna has been treated for the same type of play. And so it was really interesting. It was interesting to me. And I wonder if it's going to be a big story, little story, or it's just going to fizzle.
To answer your question, I already think it's a big story.
Yes.
And one of the things you kind of, I don't know if you left it out on purpose or failed to admit it, but the big part of this story is Ronald Acuna himself.
Right.
Because he noticed it.
Yeah.
And he tweeted publicly that had that been me, I would have been taken out of the game. And I
Right.
think that tweet is the story. Ronald Acuna is your
That is
star.
the story.
He's the biggest player on the Braves. I know he's not playing now. No, he's recovering from injury. But he's the biggest player you have on the team, the most notable, your biggest star. If the biggest star on the team says this about the manager in this relationship, I think that's the story.
Yes.
That's a good point. That is a good point because he actually deleted the post
Yeah, he
shortly
knew what he
after,
did.
and we've seen this.
He knew it was going to be a
before.
story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The damage was already done.
Yeah.
Do you think that he was it like more just kind of like an impulsive thing, or was he just trying to light a fire under?
I
his
think it
sleeve?
was extremely
It's a
impulsive.
personal. April, go
And
ahead.
I think it was impulsive and personal.
Yeah.
I think that he had feelings about the fact that he has been called out for certain plays, and he saw a player who did the exact same thing, who what he has been called out for, and the manager gonna say, "What was I supposed to do about that?" I'm not gonna lie. You excuse me, in a work environment, how are you treating them differently than me? You corrected them for the same thing, but you are not correcting them. And no shade, no shade. He's not even half the player that I am. I am the National League MVP for 2023. Like, I do home runs. I have the proof to show you that I'm that guy. And you're correcting me, but you won't correct him. Yeah, that was personal. But that to me also made me feel like, if you're that comfortable doing it on social media, regardless of how long it was up, what else going in that in that clubhouse? Because players don't do that unless they are dissatisfied or there's a sense of tension, and he's not even playing right now.
Yeah, he's on the shelf.
I'm not gonna go as far there.
They
I
not
feel
winning.
like, what's that?
They not winning, so something going on. Something ain't clicking.
Look. The Braves, for what it's worth now, they started off extremely slow. They have started to pick it up. Like, if you looked at the Braves standings right now, the Braves are
They're
obviously
8 and something.
they're still the bottom of the East, right? But they're 9-13. They're starting to. They're 6-4 over their last 10 games. Drake Baldwin has hit 2 home runs in the last 4 games or something like that.
Yes.
He's starting to heat up, starting to put himself in there.
Yeah,
Mike Harris has gotten some timely hits.
Right.
Did they sweep? I think they might have swept their last series. It was the Cardinals. I'm not. I've been following.
Yeah, the Cardinals did get swept.
I think the Braves are starting to look a little bit more like the Braves. But this is what I'll say about this, because there's 2 places that people want to go, right? There's two places that people could possibly go. Is there dysfunction with the Braves in general? Is one place they want to go because they're not winning it. They're not sitting at the top of the NL East, battling it out with the Phillies like the Braves usually are. They're at the bottom of the division right now. I'm going to put a pause on that. The other place that people want to go is Ronald Acuna is Venezuelan. He's melanated. He's high energy as a player. He's a person of color. So they're like, oh, they want to put the reins on Acuna because of all of that, and race included, and they're going to let Jarek Kelenic do whatever he wants because he's not that. I'm going to put a little bit again. First of all, this is the Black Baseball Mixtape. I look at everything through the lens of
race.
If there's some level of racial component involved in this, I'm going to say that some of the stuff that the organization, including the manager, did with Acuna early on was much more about trying to rein Acuna in. And they're trying to have Acuna play the game the right and traditional way. So, because again, Ronald Acuna is extremely young when he comes up. He's extremely talented, right?
Yeah.
He plays the game with a lot of passion, plays the game with a lot of flair, and we know he's extreme. Like I said, he's extremely good. I think what they were doing with Acuna was much more about control. They knew this guy's going to be here for a long time. They'd probably know they're going to have to pay him a lot of money. He's going to be a superstar for a long time. They don't want 22, 23-year-old Ronald Acuna to get away with much. And I think they tried to ride him they tried to carry it that way. Probably the same thing with Ozzy Albies and a bunch of these young guys that came, the Afro Latinos that came from a place where they play the game with a lot of flair, right?
Right.
I think they are watching, especially a young Ronald Acuna, much more than they are watching, Kelenic, if you will. And so I think I think the worst part of the whole situation was the way that Snicker handled it by saying, "What am I supposed to do?" Because we know good and well, had it been a young Ronald Acuna, he would have handled it differently. But I think he would have been forced to handle it differently because I think that they're really invested in this young, talented player, and they really were, for lack of a better term, fearful that they weren't going to be able to control him long term. So they wanted to try to get. Then again, Cunha hits 40 home runs and still 70 bases. He's going to do whatever the hell he wants. I'm just letting you know now.
Right.
But I think early on, I think it has a lot more to do with that. Now and again, are there undertones of really problematic control issues for young players that look like Ronald Acuna from the places that Ronald Acuna is from? Probably. Absolutely. But I think that's why it was a bigger deal to Acuna and a bigger deal to, the organization. Anything that Ronald Acuna does, I think, is a bigger deal than what Jarred Kelenic does. If that makes sense.
That is true, but the thing that really bothered me, and I know we've been on this, is that Jarred Kelenic as a player, if this was any other player that we just didn't know, like Adam Duvall or anyone that, it's just some random name. This is Jarred Kelenic, and to me, I think Jarred Kelenic had more prospect hype than Acuna did.
Maybe not now, no. Like, I know what you're saying, but
not now, but when they were coming up.
2025, ain't nobody thinking of
yeah, but I'm kind of just thinking about, like, when you're like a manager or GM, like, think about the overall non-black influence lens that we that you probably look at players. You look at a Kelenic when he was a prospect, and even now, he's confident, he's cocky, he's just as, he's going to say what he wants to say, just like Acuna if you actually listen to his interviews. So when I look at both of them, I still think there's like some type of problematic lens that's given to players like Acuna. Maybe he is, he plays with flair. But, Kelenic was he's kind of a hard nose himself too. So I don't know. I feel like it's a little different.
That right now, if you could pick,
if
you can pick between Acuna and Kelenic, you're picking Acuna every day of the week and twice on Sunday, even if he's on the IL, right? Like, yeah. So I just think, he is not nearly gonna get as scrutinized, and he should. I'm not saying it's fair. I'm saying I think there's some PTSD, if you will, or some remnants of past with Acuna because they rode him so hard, and they're like, this dude over here is getting a free pass.
But it wasn't just a free pass. It wasn't just the manager; it was players who were correcting him in the dugout or in their clubhouse as well when he came up. So it's obviously a feel. He definitely had a flashback, like, hold up. But I feel like as a manager, you also have to be professional enough in how you handle those kinds of questions. Like, you can't answer a question like that, even if you felt that way. Hopefully you don't feel that way, but you have to learn to be, equitable in the consequences that you deliver to your players. And you definitely can't do that openly, being like, well, I don't know what you want me to do. Excuse me.
Right. And it is noticeable because, again, and this is where privilege comes in. And what I mean by that is a lot of folks, a lot of groups may not even think of this, but I guarantee you, when all the black players get together, there's a few of them as they are, or the Afro-Latino players get together, and they're, you know what I mean? They're going to be like, you see what my man's did? They let him do all that. You think they're going to let us do that? So even if it's almost unconscious on managerial parts of it or Sneaker's part of it, it's probably something that's been stemming because those guys came up together and they're like, you see what they did to us? Because they did a lot of shit to Ozzy too. They won't just Ronald.
Oh, man. It was
Ozzy.
Oh yeah. There was a lot of that. And again, the Braves are they're a different team now. They're a different clubhouse. Freddie and some of those guys that were a little bit more of
Mm,
mentors and guidance, and I think even Freddie said he was kind of hard on Acuna growing up because
he
Acuna
did.
was that he was that
Yeah.
bravado, and Freddie was like,
Yeah.
you young here, kid, like, but
Yeah.
I think they were kind of tougher on all of those guys, and I think it's a different clubhouse now.
And
So
I want to say something too, because this came up on the Red Sox documentary. I don't want to get too much into it because I know we're going to talk about it.
no, go ahead.
But there was a segment where they talked about how that level of confidence was necessary for them because you either went to school or you played, because you're competing for to be chosen by the age of 17.
Yep.
So some people look at that level of confidence that they're coming in with as a negative thing, when that's something that they had to have to compete against the different players in order to be able to make it to Major League Baseball. So I think that there are some things prior that, as fans or even people within the clubhouse, they don't understand that part because there is a cultural disconnection with that.
Absolutely. No, I think you hit the nail on the head. Hey, let me ask you this before we change topics. Worst tweet. Worst tweet. Ronald Acuna's tweet or Jazz Chisholm's tweet? Jazz Chisholm's tweet got him suspended. Jazz got thrown out of the game arguing balls and strikes, went to the locker room and tweeted something about the call, which was a violation of MLB policy. So Jazz is appealing. He got suspended for a game. So what's worse? Tweeting while you're ejected out of a game or tweeting while you're on the injured list, rehabbing back?
Definitely the Acuna one's worse just because of the impact. I can see. I mean, we've seen what happened when Brian Hayes had tweeted after the game, on a bad call. So I gotta say the Acuna one's worse because it's like it's opened up a lot of articles that probably wouldn't have been opened.
That's funny. That's funny.
But I'll also say the Jazz one. That one was bad too, because I think that we're still on the subject of umps and the level of control that they have and how it ultimately affects the team. So I'm looking at it because right now Jazz is playing, and for Jazz, now you being suspended, even though he's appealing, even though he's suspended, how will that impact the team with him not being in the lineup? So
yeah, you know what? I think the Jazz tweet was a bit immature per se, but I'm not mad at Jazz. It was a horrible call. If you saw the call, it was a miserable call.
it was
ridiculous. Right. If there's an argument for automated strike zones, because calls like that was really bad.
Right.
But also, like you said, Jazz's tweet didn't disrupt the team. Like, I think the entire team could rally and say that was a horrible call. Jazz was right, and Jazz was just showing passion by tweeting his frustration. I think the Acuna tweet is clubhouse divisive, right? And so I think that makes it worse, even if Acuna is 100% right, and the guys kind of
they're both right.
Yeah, rally around him. It leads, like Malik said, it leads to at least a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks of questions about, like, is there special treatment? Is certain players getting treated better than others? And with some people getting hard. And again, I think, not to belabor it, I think it's a little bit more of certain players getting treated harder than others as opposed to the leniency. I think we're looking at like, we're being lenient on Kellenic. I think they were just like, they're being hard on some of these Afro-Latino players, if you will, early, especially young ones with big contracts coming up. April, that was Malik's topic of the day. Great job, Malik, by the way. That was fantastic.
Oh,
what's top of mind for you, April? What's your big story of the week?
Well, my big story of the week is, I'm pulling it up. Listen, y'all, the college world is crazy right now because every week there's a new number one. I can't keep up with the new number ones everywhere, except in college baseball. Texas is held on as the number one team. However, this past weekend, number 5 Georgia was swept by the Vandy boys. Completely.
Former number 5 Georgia. They're number 10 now.
Right. But I think they're like number 10 now.
They're number 10 now, yeah.
Yes. Also, number 4 Tennessee, they lost the series against unranked Kentucky, and number 2 Arkansas lost the series against Texas A&M. So the SEC, which was dominating the top 10, is no longer, and you're seeing the rise of teams like Florida State, Oregon, and a couple of others from other Clemson, other conferences. So just be on the lookout for that. And of course, in college softball, you have some of the same thing. Oklahoma had a little resurgence this week. They were 3-0 this weekend. They defeated Mississippi State. But again, it's just an uphill battle. You don't know exactly what's going to happen, and you have a new number one in softball. Texas A&M is the number one team. So every week it's something new, and I'm just excited. And I'll tell y'all, this is going to be part of my thing tomorrow. You have conference championships coming up along with regionals and super regionals within the next few weeks. You don't know exactly what this is going to look like, with people getting to the point of, I don't want to say desperation, but they understand the impact of what a win means. And so yeah, it's getting very, very intense in the college world, and I'm really excited to see if some people will be able to hold on or fall off.
Well, you brought it up, so let's quickly mention it. And baseball, let's just quickly run through the top 10. Texas is the number one now. Texas was number one last week. They are number one this week. Clemson jumps up a slot to become number 2, and that's an ACC team. Oregon State jumps up 3 slots to be number 3. So Texas, Clemson, Oregon State, Florida State from the ACC as well. Then you get the SEC guys. Arkansas's at 5, Tennessee's at 6, LSU's at 7. ACC North Carolina is at 8, Vandy Boys at 9, Georgia at 10. So you're still looking at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 SEC teams in the top 10. The SEC is still a very and again, like we were talking about, there's really good divisions, whether it's the NL West or the AL East. When you're playing each other, every weekend series in the SEC is a really tough series. So the fact that they are still just and their records are really good. They're dominating the things that they're supposed to really quickly. Like you said, number 1 in softball, Texas A&M.
Right.
Florida, number 2. Florida State, number 3. South Carolina, number 4. UCLA, number 5. LSU, those are your girls, number 6. Arkansas, 7. Texas is 8. Oklahoma, who we talk about a lot, is at number 9. And Tennessee's at 10. So in the top 10, you still have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 SEC schools in college softball. So let's if it's talking about college baseball and college softball, we can put the debate to rest. The SEC is dominant. Like it's every weekend. There's great matchups. It's fun to watch. You might want to catch those guys on a midweek game while they're kind of rotating their pitching, because when they set their rosters for Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, they are extremely tough. And it's fun to watch. It is fun to watch. I haven't watched, full disclosure, I haven't watched as much college now that affiliate ball has started. We're at the stage of the schedule where now in everything from rookie ball to high A to single A to high A, double A, triple A, Major League Baseball, they're all playing. College is all playing as well. You're just getting a ton of, if you're trying to follow even the black players in all of these levels, you're getting a ton of just content. You just got to pick and choose. So I'm excited about college. I'm excited about our prospects. It seems like certain prospects make the highlights every day.
Yeah. Justin LeBron.
One of those guys, though, debuted. I guess they debuted on Saturday. And that one guy is Chandler Simpson. So I feel like on this podcast have talked about Chan for quite a bit now. We've talked about Chandler Simpson for a while. He committed some black-on-black crime in his debut, as he was a part of the Devin Williams 4-run debacle, if you will, in Florida. He doubled for his first hit, his first double. So congratulations to Chan. Devin Williams, though, what a roller coaster. What a roller coaster.
Yeah, my dad was so upset at that game that he didn't even want to turn the Yankees on Sunday whenever he was here. So, but he was excited to see Chandler Simpson because, like, through me, he gets like, my dad is a huge baseball fan, but he's not into he doesn't know as much about the lower leagues. So I'm
Right.
able to educate him on that particular part. So I was actually just talking to him about Chandler Simpson coming up, and then boom, he hits the double to and gets his first hit. So that was pretty exciting, but yikes
Yeah,
for
really,
them.
really good news. I mean, I'm glad he got the call. There's a
Yeah.
lot of folks getting the call now.
Yeah.
Like they're getting the call. They're getting up in the bigs. So we've got to see. We got to see how this plays out. We always talk about the numbers, and even the other day, the homie Clinton Yates was like, really got to do an article about the numbers. And I was like, man, the numbers are really hard right
Right.
now because the numbers keep changing. I mean, we keep getting. I think we're at the cups of kind of getting a lot of our guys that are in AAA, especially up to the major leagues, and a lot of it is happening. So it kind of changes every day. Speaking of which, shout out to our guy Nasim Nunez, who
Yeah.
Yeah.
Abrams went on the DL. Nunez has been playing
Balling.
extremely well,
Amazing.
extremely well in
Balling
Washington. So
out.
he's seems to always. There's certain guys that always seem to find their way in the highlights, whether it's a great play in the field or a timely hit. Nunez is one of those guys, and it's exciting to see kind of what that looks like because, again, CJ Abrams was also playing
Right.
at an all-star clip before he got injured. So there's just a lot of cool things going on. Before we get out of here, I do want to talk about some players that I think, like we're talking about, are on some hot streaks, if you will. One of those you mentioned, I think you said he hit a home run again today. Francisco Lindor. Should we be look? We all know Lindor is a great player. Lindor had a great run playoffs last year. Lindor is the guy. They bring in Soto with this huge price tag, and now like it's almost like the money makes people troll Soto even more. Like I don't know, maybe it's from jumping from New York to New York, but there's a lot of like Soto trolling going on. And while this is happening, I feel like Lindor is even coming into his own and playing even better. He had a flub the other day on defense where he said, he's got to be better and kind of might have cost his team the game. But he is starting to come together with the bat. Another, I think Malik, correct me if I'm wrong. Lindor is another traditionally like slow starter that has to work his way
Yes.
into the season, but he's
That
playing
is
really
true.
well now. I came on earlier this week or last week, and said that the debate, I was wrong. The debate is put to rest.
Yes.
Any questions about Lindor now in regards to just being the undisputed captain of that team and pretty much the king of queens, if you will?
Yeah, he is the king, and I think that that what he's showing us is that he can be a very good player for a long time, but also he can be a leader of a team. When he first came to New York, a lot of folks were just worried. It's just some young player who was just gonna only care about himself. He needed a contract when he got here. Everybody thought the contract was ridiculous, and now he's playing to every penny of it. It's kind of reminding me a little bit after when. Bryce Harper kind of got his footing with the Phillies a little bit.
That's a good
Because
point.
in that first year, people were like, oh, what's going on? What's going on? And I think maybe just maybe that might be what Soto might have to go through. Just that first year of just like these high astronomical expectations being put on you, and then still doing well. We know Soto's gonna have like a 400 on base percentage by the end of this year. But I think that Lindor, as a player, he's been able to take all of the media. He's been able to be New York trained. He has the swag. He has the flair. And he's bringing that leadership that team needs because the Mets are a team that I think can be on the cusp of a championship, type of run, team if they, had all things click for them.
4 All-Star games for Lindor in Cleveland. None. I think I'm looking at this right. 0 All-Star games for Lindor in New York. That's crazy, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I think it has to be with that slow start. A lot of times, those slow starts kind of actually the start of the season kind of fools us a lot, and then we see some of the best players reach that MVP conversation around August and even September. And that's what Lindor did last year. He was like hitting 150 that first month, and it was like extremely cold. They moved him to the leadoff spot, and he hasn't moved from there ever since.
Well, Lindor is my player that I was going to highlight this week as the people that, as I'm watching must see TV. Is there any players, April? Is there a player that you're glued into that you have to watch when the out of market games come on? Who are you turning on to see right now?
I'm not gonna lie. I gotta see what Tatis is doing because he just been on.
You watching?
Look, I gotta see what the enemy doing, but
okay with that.
Yeah, see,
but Tatis is just looking like an MVP, and I was, talking with my dad about this. I'm like, the MVP race for the AL is Judge, like, and that's it. Judge, and then is Judge up here and everybody else down here. No offense, y'all, but in the NL, it literally is like it could be anybody. And I think that is a great thing. But right now, what Tatis is doing is what we've expected him to do.
Yeah.
We've expected him to play offensively and defensively at that level. And now I'm just like, okay, so how many more home runs you going to win? Are you going to get? And how many games consecutively are you going to do this? So
I like that pick. I think for me,
I like that pick.
Yeah, I'm a really big fan of it. I think for me, it's Ellie De La Cruz still. And really because there was this one night where he had like 3 errors and then all the, the tweets and all the publications like, see, he doesn't have his head in the game. Why is he missing all these plays? The next day he's catching balls where the second baseman is.
Yeah.
He's hitting homers. He's stealing bases. And so like, it's like I saw that game. I was like, wow, I know that a lot of these guys, these tech bros, are gonna come out and start talking about how they need to move Ellie off a shortstop, and then the next day he makes plays that the third baseman and the second baseman can't even get to, which is kind of just insane. He's just so long, he's so lanky, and also strong. I think I just love seeing him play, and I like seeing him bounce back too. When he has a bad game, he locks in. A lot of people think that just because he smiles and he actually has a good attitude and he's funny, that he's not locked in and he's not serious, or where it's really the opposite. So I love watching him just lock it in.
I think you're right. I still don't see a world long term where he stays a shortstop. I don't.
It's 14 outs above average, Cheats. That's the same as Francisco Lindor last year.
I don't get me wrong. I understand exactly what you're saying. But I do not see a world where he stays. Let me ask you this too, because I'm looking at the numbers in 2025 so far. Ellie De La Cruz, I mean he's better, slightly better, right? Mm-hmm. He's better, but O'Neal Cruz is not for the Pirates. Has not been awful.
Hey,
no,
O'Neal Cruz has been doing some things, huh?
Yeah. He hasn't been
O'Neal Cruz has been doing some things. And that was always my comp, was like, who would you rather have, Ellie De La Cruz or O'Neal Cruz? And I think Ellie, we're there. Ellie's still there, but O'Neal Cruz is looking pretty good as well.
Yeah. Listen, I love he hit that grand slam after they tried to throw that ball at McCutchen. That was
I can't believe we didn't talk about that.
Yeah. That was classic ball don't lie moment, right?
Oh my Lord. That gave me flashbacks when that last time they tried to hit McCutchen in, I think, Arizona. Oh man, more than 10 years ago.
The whole sequence was fantastic. You got a little bit of everything, including everybody holding Tommy Pham back. I don't even know why Tommy Pham was like. Tommy Pham was ready to go.
He was going to go get his switchblade.
That's what he's supposed to do. If you're not defending me like that, I don't even want you. Like,
That's crazy. Malik, has Cam Smith put to bed any concerns about if he needs to go down or not?
Oh yeah.
You're good with Cam Smith now?
Cam Smith, oh man, here I've seen it all. I've seen all the YouTubes posted. They rushed him. They rushed Cam Smith. I'm like, it's been a week. The guy watches pitches. He has a 96% sprint speed. I didn't know he was that fast. The prospect rankings lied about his speed, giving him that 45 grade. The guy watches pitches. He's hit 3 home runs. He's hitting at the 9 hole I think they just need to give him some games. It's kind of a similar situation with Jordan Walker. When Jordan Walker came up, he had like almost like a 20-game hitting streak, and they kind of sent him down. They're saying like he needs to make adjustments. This time, they need to let him cook because we don't really have the best options in right field right now. With like DeZenzo, and then Taylor Trammell is still healing. Cam Smith, he's locking in. We just got to give him some at bats.
And Malik gets in his Taylor Trammell comments.
I love Taylor Trammell, man.
I know,
Hey,
look, we gonna see. We
I
don't know.
love my left-handed swinging Taylor Trammell. Please give me some Taylor Trammell.
Well, look, we're gonna wrap this up. This has been another excellent episode of the Black Baseball Mixtape podcast. We had the crew, April, Malik. Thank you so much. We will be back this week on. Well, we'll figure it out because Thursday nights are normally our IG live night, and it's also this guy's Little League Baseball night where he coaches a Little League Baseball game, and that usually runs a little late on the East Coast. So don't exactly know if we're going to be able to get it all in, but stand by for Thursday night. Obviously, we go IG live with Lewis Brinson. We've got to once again thank our sponsors, Steeler Sports, the Players Alliance, Rebellion Harvest, Sunflower Seeds, Number Game Scorecards, Minority Prospects, Red, Black, and Green Baseball. There should be a new article this week on the website from our guy Pat over at Red, Black, and Green. So make sure you check that out as well. It's coming. New comic strip is out. Black Kids Play Baseball. Little CC needs a torpedo bat. He's working to see if that's going to change his Little League game. There will be a new 10th inning talk coming up this Wednesday, so we're excited about that as well. So make sure you lock it in, and then every day, if you haven't been following, you can finish your breakfast recapping the Black Baseball news of the day as that drops every day, and there'll be a new one up tomorrow. So, hey, appreciate you guys checking in. Until next time, we'll see you next week.